welcome everyone to this week's Founder Chat. I'm here with Jessica McNaughton, the CEO and co-founder of memoryKPR. I'm really excited to have you here, Jessica. I know we haven't really had a chance to get to know each other. You're not from the Volition alumni, which is kind of typically who we have on here, but I really am excited to get to know you. And I know we did a blog article on you, and I've read a little bit about what you've been doing with memoryKPR, and I know that you're a digital storytelling platform and application that allows people to save, as well as store, design, protect, and tell your story, which I'm excited to dig into. And I wanted to thank our friends over at Valhalla for introducing us.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know that you were part of the Valhalla Investment Summit Saskatchewan, which was in the spring, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. And so this is organized by our partners over at Valhalla Angels. And if anyone's unfamiliar with that group, they are an investor-only membership group committed to supporting the startup ecosystem through early stage angel investing. And they do these investor summits across Western Canada. We have one coming up that I'll talk a little bit about at the very end. We'll save this space for Jessica, but Jessica was a part of this. I'm going to ask you a little bit about your experience at some point in our conversation today. Hopefully you're not hearing my background noise too much. Usually I don't have conflicting meetings with my husband, but he seems to be in one all of a sudden, so I apologize for that. But otherwise, if you haven't been to one of our founder chats before, it's essentially going to be a 30-minute casual interview style conversation. And if you're joining us here live, please do say hello. Let us know where you're joining us from. Ask questions. It doesn't have to just be me asking questions. Also, if you're here on IGTV, if you're joining us later on IGTV or on YouTube, you can also ask questions there, and we'll make sure to be checking back on that. Also, I'm Melanie, which I always forget to say. So, hello. I'm one of the managing partners. Hi. I'm one of the managing partners at Volition, and we build capacity, connectivity, and knowledge in global startup ecosystems. So one of those ecosystems being across Canada, also in the US, in Europe, in Africa, and I'm personally in Montreal right now. So without further ado, I will stop gabbing. And I'd like to pass this over to you, Jessica, if you'd like to start off by sharing a little bit about your origin stories. And that can be your personal origin stories and how that turned into memoryKPR, or however you want to tell that story. I know every founder has kind of a different way that they ended up where they are. So anything that you think might be interesting to our viewers to share, I'd love to hear about your story.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I think there were a couple roads that merged to get me here, and one was just career after spending, I'm not going to say how many years because I'm that old, but a lot of years in corporate Canada, and always having great experiences, and just hitting one final role. I was a chief people officer. Fairly, I owned strategy and people, and had some big responsibilities, and I thought, okay, this was great, and I still had that, there's something I haven't done. So on one side, there's that. On the other side, and I should say it's memoryKPR is how we pronounce it. So,
Keeper. Oh,
yes.
I apologize.
It makes sense once I tell you.
It does. memoryKPR. Yes,
yeah.
Of course.
But the other side is really anchored in loss, but not in a sad way. I've lost my mom 15 years ago, my dad about under 10 years, and I lost a niece at the age of 15, 8 years ago. And just this noticing these habits of, what do we have that's different? And so my mom 15 years ago, I don't even have a single recording of her voice, or especially her laugh, which I know was outstanding, but I cannot tell you, I cannot, close my eyes and hear it anymore. It's gone. And with my dad, we didn't have much more. He was an incredible storyteller, like an absolutely incredible storyteller. And we never really sat and just captured that with him. And the habits were different. We didn't have the smartphones in our hands all the time. With my niece, completely other end of the spectrum. We had a ton of really incredible pieces of her in social media, and pieces that are things like being able to hear her and see her laugh and goof around. And she's not left as this sad story of how we lost Emily. She's this great, spirit that we get to see through all these memories we were able to keep of hers, and specifically I think social media. But what happened with hers was a lot of her videos were on Vine at the time, and Vine's folded into Twitter, and some of them were lost. Actually, we've just recently been able to find a couple more that we thought were gone altogether. But it sparks this, where are all our stories going? If they're on Facebook or Instagram or maybe TikTok or Snapchat or all these things that actually aren't businesses meant to archive and protect your stories and help them come to life, and B, are impermanent solutions. And so at least 30, 40 years ago, someone's grandma was writing on the back of a picture to say, this is who was here and this is why we gathered, and it was special. Whereas now we've got, this year alone, anticipated about 1.4 trillion pieces of media are going to be captured. And other than the occasional person, and from the stats we gather, it's less than 1% of the people capturing that media actually have them saved somewhere. And if they do, they have them saved in a Dropbox or Google Photos or Amazon, for wherever your photo storage is. It's just a bunch of loose pictures. And so where's the context? Where's the story? Where's the voice that goes with that picture? And so we created memoryKPR as a solution to that problem that we think is facing the entire world right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that story. My dad's a storyteller as well, and you just made me think about the fact that I don't think we've captured him telling a story. We've retold one of his stories in the exact way that he tells it and recorded it for him once, my sister and I, but I don't think I've actually captured him telling a story.
Well, and the thing that happens as you pass these stories on is you lose pieces of them.
Yeah. And like the inflection even, and like where they place emphasis, where like what they value and how they tell the story comes out, right?
Yeah. The other thing we do in the platform is you can invite other people to contribute to your story. And it's almost crowdsourcing the whole experience. And so some people keep it private just for themselves, but the people who have done that, we've had a couple memorial examples that customers have told us about where it's like, I had absolutely no idea my mom even did this. And here I've got this really rich story from this lady that worked with her 30 years ago. And so it continues to build someone's story, sometimes even after they're gone as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love this so much. Amazing. Okay, so I'd like to learn more. What did this timeline look like? When did you start memoryKPR? And what has that journey looked like since then?
Yeah. So I started, we officially incorporated January 1st, 2020.
Wow, okay, yeah.
And we didn't actually start software development until May of 2020. And just by, lucky enough, not lucky, but we seized the opportunity we knew a couple really good developers that were slowing their work as a result of COVID. And so we jumped on that bandwagon and got them working with us really quickly. And so we started development in May. And by the end of, almost the end of October, we were doing a couple of pilots in some seniors' homes facilities here in Saskatchewan. And that actually served a really unique purpose, especially with COVID, because people weren't getting to see each other. So the recreational staff, instead of having a room that they were doing a group activity, were spending one-on-one time. So they actually managed to sit and get to ask some really, just, I don't know, heart fuzzy sort of questions of some of the elders that lived in their facility, and captured some really beautiful stories. On the flip side, also, a couple of those people that went first with us, we got their families to create them memoryKPRs for Christmas as well. And so it was kind of twofold. We have this archive of all these beautiful stories of some of these people, but they also, in one of the situations, Rosie was her name. She was one of our very first stories that we captured. And you can capture picture, video, voice recording, text, and you can also take a still picture but add a voice tag to it. So we have some that where grandmas have added their secret recipe that they don't have written down on the recipe. There's one, it's my absolute favorite. It's a tablespoon of ginger ale makes the pastry puffy, and it's with the still picture of the recipe card that's 30 years old.
Yeah.
It's not written on there anywhere. It really is the secret, and now they've got grandma's voice. Yeah. But so we did these pilot projects and we had some really good success, working through the clunkiness of it's hard for it's hard to go out when the product's not perfect yet, you know, especially we knew some of the things were perfect. We knew the security was really well done. We knew the back end was built. We knew people could trust us with their private stories. We spent a lot of time on that, but we knew some of the user experience stuff was still clunky, and, you know, sometimes people will be having to record once or twice, and that part's just hard to go out at first. But we've worked through a lot of those kinks. January, we went to market with our web app, and then we've just actually in the last week launched our in the Google stores and the app stores and Apple as well.
So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So we just continue to evolve. One of our biggest challenges is actually that every time we put it out there, someone's using it for something different. So we have some events using it now, some business using it as storytelling, and even as content capture from their customers to sit on to use later for Instagram and such. And so there's so many different ways people are using it. It's really hard to focus on one because we're getting so many stories. But someone once said to me, like, the camera didn't stop and say we're only focusing on pictures at the beach, you know, like it's about stories, and they happen in all sorts of ways with all sorts of, you know, different forms.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about so many use cases as well. I mean, for me, like watching these kinds of stories, but also watching people's pitches. And what's really interesting is watching them over the years, because we started the pitch events in 2016. And so we've seen some people since 2016, really they're kind of like evolution. Yeah. So that would be just really interesting for me personally. I'm also a qualitative researcher. So like capturing stories, I'm just like way too distracted right now thinking about all of the ideas. So I apologize for that. I just think it's so exciting.
Yeah, we have a couple people running for office in Canada here, in Saskatchewan and in Alberta, who are using it and who are capturing constituents' stories as they door knock, if they're willing. And I mean, I had never considered that, and it's an incredible way. We're working with Ronald McDonald House, and we think we're going to do a launch there. Again, we thought it was more it's a private journal, capture your story. You know, you can receive kind of pep rally updates from the people supporting you. But then like 2 days in, they're like, actually, we have people who want to use this to put their updates back to the family rather than texting 42 people at the end of an exhausting day. And never thought about that, but of course you can.
Amazing. Okay, so it's been a year and 8-9 months, and it sounds like you have learned so much, and you've iterated, and I'm imagining it's been a very intense, however many months that is, year and more than a year.
20 years or just
20 years ish, like give or take a month or two. So I'd love to know, and you came from corporate background, you're saying, and when you talk about with memoryKPR, memoryKeeper, memoryKeeper, I'll get there. What does the team look like, and like how? So I'm always curious to hear when people have come from like the outside doesn't appear to be a really obvious transition into entrepreneurship, but sometimes it is, and then I get to unravel that story. So please do tell like what that transition was like for you.
Yeah. I think, you know, looking back, and my whole career is probably, if not entrepreneurial. You know, I worked probably some of my favorite places. My parents both had their own businesses. I was at WestJet in the early days, and that was where I felt the most at home, where we're like, you know, just not the planes, but duct taping things together, making them work. Not safety wise. I want to be very clear. That's not a safety statement. But, you know, like those environments have always been really comfortable for me. And so this really feels like home. But the other thing that I think I spent a lot of my career was spanned between human resources and mergers and acquisitions. And both were about transformational change and bringing people along, and the collective kind of we. And so being able to apply those things to the very small team we have, you start with an idea. It's the craziest thing. And you talk to enough people, and then one or two say, I also believe in this idea, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to join you. And it's kind of mind blowing to think that anyone else will follow along on this dream with you and help you build it. I'm a non-technical founder. There's no way we would be where we are without we have a couple of really incredible guys that work in our development. They lead our development. And we just have gotten so lucky with talent, and part of me thinks that's luck, and hopefully part of me thinks that's some experience from my old world bleeding into this. But
Yeah,
yeah.
amazing. And so, and you also bootstrapped for a lot of that first, like the initial part of your journey, and then the Valhalla Investment Summit was your first investment. So what has that been like since being invested in? What does that transition look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's scarier too, in that there's just more people that that the vote of confidence comes with the middle of the night. I have to make this work. Like, there's no stopping. There is no, it can't work. It just has to now, because every time one more person believes in you, I want to prove them right. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And the investment, I mean, it changed a couple of things. It actually got me to a point where I was able to say, no, we have enough. And that was pretty cool too, to get to,
huge milestones.
go from bootstrapping to the point where I know we have enough to get our runway to a place where we can, create value in this company. And it actually started, I competed in the Okanagan in the Angel Summit there and made it to the semis. And that was pretty exciting. And then I did this one, honestly, not thinking I had a chance so much as just, it's always great to get out and pitch and have more people know who you are and what you're doing. And it's a sales thing, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
So when I won the Angel Summit, that was the money is great. Don't get me wrong. The money is great. It really helps extend our runway, and it helps just take a little bit of the pressure off to know we have a little bit of time to get there, and I'm able to retain my good staff and, keep moving. But it's also just this vote of confidence. The way that the Valhalla does these angel summits is there's a lot of people who invest a little bit as kind of a tester on how you like being an angel investor. And so it's also 20 more people in this community and this ecosystem that are, investing and know and care and are vested in your success, which is also kind of cool. And then it attracted some other investors. So some of the investors from the Okanagan that had heard me when I got to the semis are actually in now as well. And they're just really, well, most of all, they're just really wise and helpful. But it's also a little scary at first too, to be like, okay, other people are betting their hard, like I'm pretty frugal and I'm careful with my dollars, and so to think that someone else is taking their hard-earned dollars and putting it in you and trusting there's going to be a better return is pretty humbling.
That's incredible. So I'm curious to know, we always ask, with this journey that you've been on, that you've walked us through, thank you for walking us through that. What have been your lessons learned for someone else who's maybe starting out, maybe another non-technical founder out there who's starting a technical company, or someone who's going from corporate into this world of entrepreneurship, or anyone who's kind of a peer of yours starting out? What would be some tips or advice you might have for them?
Yeah, first and foremost is just one foot in front of another every single day. There were job offers that came along the way. There were things, and just one foot in front of the other. And also, it's funny because you can show up to different events and you can pitch, and one investor's going to say, I'm making this up, but you should have wore red, and one's going to say you should have wore blue. They're going to be polar opposites, the advice. And so it's really important to be able to listen. But the people I listen the most to and I care the most about what they're saying is actually our users and what they wish our product did. And the rest, you just have to say, it's okay. I might not be a match with that investor. I might be a match with that investor, and that's okay. But you have to know, I think to the Angel Summit that I won, and you get coached. Like, certain people say, you should really always say this, or you should really always say that. And one of the things that they always say is you should be talking about your exit. What's your exit strategy? And when I got asked the question in the Angel Summit, and truthfully, I was there thinking, here's a good forum to tell some people about my company. So I was being brutally honest, and I was following my gut on what I felt. And so one of the questions was about my exit strategy. And I said, I'm not focused on how I'm exiting this company. I'm focusing on how I'm building an incredible company so that 20, 30, 40 years from now, you can see a story, or your kids can see a story, or your grandkids can see a story, and it really actually make a difference. And if I get distracted with that, and I thought after I said that, I was like, there we go. And I went. So, you know, I think part of it is you've got to know where you're willing to bend and say, I'll change this and I'll pivot for the right, you know, use case and for the right customer and but you also have to know what's really truly what you own in it, in your story, in your own story. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. You do hear lots of different pieces of advice that come up. What was I going to say to that? Oh, I forget. I had something in my brain and
I do that all the time. I'll be like, it's really
straight
good.
Up.
It's gone.
And then I got too invested in like the next thing you were saying and completely forgot what I was intending to say. I think something about your story though that's really important, particularly at the angel investing stage, is that it's so relatable. Like your answer was, and that's why I got lost in your answer. Your answer was about how you want to be able to have these stories 20 years from now, and that kind of answer that makes us put ourselves in that situation of, I want to be able to see stories from my mom 20 years from now. I want to be able to capture stories from my kids. Like it becomes so relatable, and at that stage of investing, that's so important to be able to have that connection. And and you had a plan, and you knew how you wanted to grow, and you knew that you didn't need to focus on your exit strategy right now. Obviously, you listen to your customers, as you say, and you're willing to pivot. You're very coachable. You're very likable. These are all things that, like, at this stage are just like green flag. Amazing.
I know.
So I'm not surprised.
The next stage, I'm going to have a lot better spreadsheets, probably.
Potentially, but you have a fantastic. I mean, like, but you're obviously very strategic, and you have a lot of people who, as you said, are in your back corner or in your corner, and they're excited to help you grow and succeed, which is incredible and such a big part of it, right? Building these networks and these relationships, that's massive.
And the users, like the users who were here 6 months ago when it was clunky and whatever, and it's gotten a little bit smoother, and they're not saying I was mad 6 months ago and I'm gone. They're sending me notes now saying, oh, I love this, or this was so much easier, great job. And it's just like incredible. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that so much.
We've also, we did some things with some youth as well, with like, not for likes and follows, but your story, just to honor your story. And we've been spending a bit of time in that space too. And it's been, again, another one I hadn't anticipated being, even a market for us right now, and been really meaningful to hear some of the stories of some of the youth that are using this as their own story, choosing, who they share it with, who contributes. And it's not about likes, it's not about follows, it's about honoring a story. And that's been, kind of hair on the arm stands up experience lately too. Yeah.
I know you were mentioning that working with kids and ensuring that they know their story, know and own their story, and are able to tell their story is important to you. I'd love to know more about that in terms of like, where do you see that going? I'm curious about, and like, what place does that have in memoryKPR, and like your future vision of memoryKPR?
Yeah, I mean, our real to the core vision is that we are like Ancestry.com, but for your family stories. Not your genetics, not your family tree, although your family tree, some people are using it that way, but for your genetics. And so, or not for your genetics, for your family stories. And so, that's where we want to go. We want to go, like, if we look long term, it's 30 years from now, like I said, that this is making a difference in someone's life. And it does, like, even statistically, there's a ton of science behind the fact that knowing where you came from and the richness and the depth of character helps you be a more adaptable, confident, resilient individual. And so, that's where we're going. That's the hope. And so part of, working with the youth when I started was just actually getting this in the hands of young people. You see what needs to be fixed or what needs to be changed faster, because they just, so that was the original intent. And the other intent was we actually started working with some youth, helping them to capture their grandparents' stories. So link the generations. So that's really where that all kind of boiled up from and where we're going with it right now. But like a lot of things, once it gets in the storyteller's hands, it goes a different direction than I anticipate.
Yeah, I'm super curious to see where that goes. I'm really enjoying working with youth right now, and they grew up in a very different environment than any of us did. So very different experiences, things that they value, things that they're concerned about, the weight of much of the world.
Yes.
And so I think have these really interesting stories, and I think that's such a valuable, again, with my like qualitative researcher hat on, in terms of like longitudinal study, like I'd be so interested. I need to talk to you about using this for research is the thing. Yeah, definitely qualitative longitudinal study. That would be amazing. So thank you so much for what you're doing. I think it's something, like I mentioned, that everyone can relate to. I'm not surprised that people are so excited about it. And I'm excited about where you're going with it. Are there any upcoming milestones that we should be aware of? Anything we should be like here cheering you on for?
Yeah, I mean, our short term was the App Store, and then next we'll be building some templates around what kind of story. But longer term, you're going to see us automate this. So that's our real goal, is that those people that I talked about that have 10,000 pictures in a Dropbox with no context, all your data tells that story. And instead of selling it to a marketing company, let's turn it on its head and use it to craft your stories for you and for the people you decide to leave as the benefactor to those stories.
Cool. All right. So as of right now, people can go to memoryKPR, which looks like memoryKPR.com.
Yes, you can
and
go
from there can download
App Store, Google App Store, Apple App Store, and follow us on Instagram. We give tutorials on there a lot. And
amazing. Okay, so that's at memoryKPR on Instagram, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Oh, you got all of them. And on LinkedIn. I guess no one was using that username, which is pretty incredible.
Exactly. And Pinterest, which actually we have a ton of really good like conversation starter, record these questions for your kids from school, all sorts of good little tips and tricks there.
Amazing. Okay, so go to all the things, download it. I'm going to go do that. I'm very excited about that. And what else can we as your audience and your community do to support you? So what would be your ask here today of us?
My ask would be, try the product. There's a free or a premium. So try the free product. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you wish it did. Like the milestones we've hit that have been the most meaningful are suggestions we've gotten from users. And tell your friends, like even likes, follows, comments. It all helps us grow and it helps us get feedback and reach faster.
Fantastic. All right. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes. Yeah, of course. No, I'm hoping that everyone who's watching this now or later will take you up on that. And if you've just joined us midway through, know that this will be on IGTV and on YouTube, and you can come back and learn more about the origin stories of memoryKPR, learn more about Jessica and how she got to the launch of memoryKPR, and some of the lessons learned along the way, which is really interesting to go back and learn from. And is there anything that we haven't been able to touch on here today that you'd wanted to mention, Jessica?
The only other thing I should say that we have in the works is we are hosting actually an end of life event later on in the fall, where we're actually going to help individuals who coach around like how to capture a story at the end of life, because it's such a sensitive time, but also such a cherished thing to be able to have. So stay tuned on our channel for that, because we're just working out the details on how to bring that training to you for free.
That's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you for being here. I have one more question for you. Yeah, I'm so happy that I got to be here for your first Instagram Live, and I'm sorry that I was getting distracted. Usually I'm much more focused, but I was just a little bit too excited.
That's kind of how I roll, so it's fine.
Fantastic. And I do have another question for you, but I want to first mention again the upcoming Valhalla Investment Summit. Because we are partnered with Valhalla on that. It's coming up this fall. This will be BC focused, so if you're in British Columbia and Canada, and you have operations there, then you can apply to pitch. You can also be an investor in the summit. If you're a new investor, or if you just want to be a part of it, then reach out to us. So essentially, as Jessica mentioned, this is a 7-week, this particular one is a 7-week immersive program, and it's going to provide hands-on experience to the founders as well as the investors in a fun and casual setting. And then and then one of the companies will go home with $100,000 or more in investment for one of the local tech startups here in British Columbia. So the deadline to apply, if you are a company, is September 22nd. The investor recruitment deadline is September 23rd. And you can learn more about that at valhallaangels.com/investment-summit-BC. Or if you just go to valhallaangels.com, there's like all of the summits at the top, including the Saskatchewan one, and you can go to the British Columbia one and learn more about it there. So I wanted to mention that because I think I'm so happy that you were part of that.
Yeah, I went to one and I learned so much about valuation, about how to approach investors. Like, it was a really key piece of my knowledge.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. And I'm so happy that I got introduced to you through this as well.
Yeah,
Because I will be following up with you. So fantastic. So the final question that I have for you today, actually, I have two questions. One is, if people want to connect with you directly for any reason, how can they do that?
Yeah. So either Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm really active in the memoryKPR Instagram account too, so it's there is fine. But I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well, and my email is on the website for our company.
Fantastic.
So I love to hear from people.
Amazing. And this was awesome. Thank you, Jessica. We had one of our attendees saying that. I agree. And my last question for you here today is, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
Honestly, like I'm all memoryKPR right now. Like I'm so excited about what I'm doing, and also I'm part of a business incubator, the Connexus Cultivator, and just being around people who are chasing their dream every day. It's just outstanding.
Yeah, agreed. I get to do that every day as well.
It's so good.
It's so much fun. Amazing. All right, so I will be here next week again. On September 7th, I'll be talking to Christina Morrow, who's the founder of Wicked Rose, which is a Canadian-made activewear for women in martial arts. They actually just pitched at our BC Women's Showcase last week, I believe it was last week, and they are incredible. So please do come check that out. That's actually going to be at 10 a.m. PST now. We are switching so that we can accommodate more time zones. Because we have some incredible people who are with us from Europe and Africa and other areas of the world. So I want to be able to provide a little bit more of the time zone stretch than currently. But thank you so much, Jessica. Really appreciated you being here, sharing your story, and we will definitely be in touch. Thank you so much.
And thanks for giving all of us a forum to have these conversations. It's fabulous.
Amazing. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.